Hello and welcome to Two Girls in a Pod. I am Sharon.
I'm Christy.
Hope all of you are doing well.
Yeah.
You know what's really funny is that it's that time of year, and of course we had that major little snowstorm that kind of threw us for a loop.
Little. It came and stayed for 3 days. That's not typical for Colorado Springs, and I was not feeling it.
No, there were a lot of people who were achy after shoveling all that snow. The thing is, it's oftentimes when winter comes, moods shift.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we look at those mood shifts, it's one of those other things that gets in the way of us meeting our goals, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I like the different season changes, and I think a lot of people do, but sometimes when it's setting into winter and that, and you feel like sometimes you're stuck inside or well, I don't know, there's some that don't stay stuck inside even with that, but I know I feel like I don't wanna be out there in that, so I think that sometimes it can kind of bring you down, kinda put a damper on things. I know one of the biggest things for me is the time change.
And it's funny you said that because it's been a rough 3 weeks, 2,
Mhm.
3 weeks for my clients too, and for us. When I'm looking up and it says sunset 4:46, I'm there like 4:46. Oh my God, I'm gonna feel like I have to go to bed in 2 hours.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's just one of those things that I think that we don't realize how much of the sun is important to us in all of those kind of things too. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But it causes you see people who could be in this elevated mood, and you start seeing this progressive downward slide as the nights get dark, gets darker faster, and all of those other kind of things that are going on. And then a lot of people will tell me, and this was the big thing this week, I'm sorry, of I don't have the motivation. I have projects, but I don't, I just don't feel motivated. So things are not getting done.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that it's easy to get stagnant in with that mindset. It's like I said, to me, the time change has such a huge impact, and I feel like that even up to that, it's like the 2 or 3 weeks before we even make the change, my body's already feeling it,
It's already
and
saying, oh, hell, it's coming.
yeah, it's so, like, at 6 o'clock, it feels like 8 o'clock, and it's ugh.
And as I was telling you right before this, I said, when winter comes, the trees go dormant. It doesn't mean we have to go dormant, but for some reason, it's like everything goes. And I think the cool thing is what people don't understand is this time of year really can be that time of motivation, self-reflection, relooking at goals, things
Mhm.
like that. So it can be really a productive time.
Yeah.
But we've gotten so used to this thing of falling into these patterns of, I'm not going outside, nothing's happening, the world kind of slowed down, whatever it is that kind of goes on. And it's true. One of the things is that when the sun is setting sooner and things like that, it really does mess with our melatonin as well.
Mhm.
And so it causes a whole bunch of other stuff that's going on. So there's some physiological things going that are happening that are kind of adding to that as well. But
Mhm.
I just feel like people get into such a funk.
Yeah.
And how can we be proactive? And I think part of our coaching, we coach in the winter too. So it's keeping people motivated, keeping them moving forward in that forward motion.
Mhm.
And one of the things I tell people when it becomes winter and we kind of get that, oh, I'm not going out for the weekend. I'm just going to sit at home. But the problem with that is that becomes the pattern then. I'll just stay in my jammies. I've got nothing to do anyway.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with having a day like that, but I really think that in order to stay moving forward, you do have to look at that and say, maybe I do need to get out and move around. That will help motivate me. So,
It's interesting for me. Winter motivates my workouts. I don't know why. Have you noticed that with me?
mhm.
Winter comes and I will work out. And partly is because I guess I'm not going outside. So I want to do something different.
Yeah.
And so that can be one of the things. Move your body, stretch more, yoga. There's all these things that you can do in your home.
Yeah.
read more, educate yourself more. There are so many things, but we will stop projects. We will do all of these kind of things. And oftentimes people are not even aware they're doing it.
Well, yeah, and I like that you brought up about the learn new things because when we start doing that, it like wakes up our brain when we start learning something new. And that's a great time to start doing something like that. It's a great motivator to get you inspired to move forward with your other projects or that I feel like. So, I mean, somebody may feel like, well, I don't want to take on something new or whatever, but sometimes that's exactly what you need to get that spark going.
I agree. And there may be some projects you do have to put on hold. Maybe it is a seasonal thing or that, but it doesn't mean you put your life on hold. It doesn't mean you put your mood on hold. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of get stuck in that of, oh man, it's one of those, it's that time of year again. And then we have holidays and things like that. Even though holidays are a time of getting together and things like that, it's also a time of our increased stress levels and
Yeah.
things like that. So people look forward to them and dread them all at the same time.
I think that's a huge factor when it comes to this time of year. And maybe, like you say, it's supposed to be a joyous thing for holidays and stuff, but a lot of times people put a lot of unnecessary pressure on themselves. And so that can really get people down.
100%. And we are kind of the belief system now that they're here. We don't, when we have time with our friends and family at any time of the year. And so we don't add that, we don't act like this is something more important than the other times of the year that we get together with our friends and family. We really try to rein that kind of stuff in, but it can. And I remember historically with me, it would be like, oh my God, we got to do this and we got to do that. And when I'm hearing people, "Ugh, I got to take down my other decorations. I got to put up the new decorations and I got to take those down. And I'm there like, "Oh, wow, okay."
Yeah. Well,
Such a chore.
and I get it, I mean, I want to be able to well, it's like I tell you, I wanna be able to leave it up for a length of time because I feel like that why am I gonna go and put it up for a week and then have to take it all down? That doesn't make any sense to me, so
Well, I agree. And, it's kind of confusing because with Thanksgiving being the last week of, November, we're gonna be right into Christmas.
and then
So it's like, "Oh,
Christmas this year being on a Wednesday is really throwing me off. I'm like, I don't know, it's
it's
kinda
gonna
weird.
mess my schedule up.
Yeah.
It'll mess my work schedule."
See, all kinds of pressures that we put ourselves under.
But, once again, these are things that we start overthinking things.
Yeah.
And even, like, when people get in these seasonal funks, what happens is they keep their thought process on almost beating themselves up. "Oh, I should have done that. I didn't have the energy, but I should have had the energy, and now I'm just, a piece of poop," and but I mean, just all sorts of stuff starts to take place in the head,
Mhm.
which then just plummets that mood more.
Exactly. We talk a lot about our inner dialogue, and I think that is something people definitely have to be mindful of, especially this time of year if you are falling into that kind of slump.
Pay attention, be aware. What are you saying to yourself?
Mhm.
And if you're saying things like that, figure out what are some of the other things that I can do? What are some of those things that keep me mindful of where I want to be?
I think that a really good way to do that, and we talk about it a lot, is shifting to gratitude.
100%.
That will 100% help you feel better for sure.
And it's really interesting because even the practice of gratitude, we're talking, it's about practicing the different, whatever it is that we're trying to learn new, we have to practice it.
Mhm.
I just, or but right before this, I jumped on a Noom vibe. Kristen Brown was doing one on that, the thing of how do you make these your patterns and stuff. And that's what it is. We have to talk about the importance of practicing.
Mhm.
And people say, "Well, that's so hard. That takes a lot of energy." But I will tell you this, and this is what I was explaining on there, is it takes the same amount of energy to stay in a positive or a negative place.
Mhm.
You just have to choose wisely. Which do you want to do? So if I'm sitting there and I'm spending a lot of time with all that negative thought process going on in my head, it takes the same amount of energy to switch it and do a positive gratitude. looking at those things that I do effectively.
I think that it feels harder though for people because it's not within their practice usually.
Mhm.
We're so stuck in our mindset of a lot of times a negative space and like we say, talking to ourselves down and things like that. And it doesn't benefit us.
No.
So it's really hard to shift it sometimes. But that's why I say I think that bridging that it's with gratitude it's the way out of that headspace.
100%. And I think the other thing I think is important for people to identify is, especially if you're one of those people who does that seasonal funk, as we call it,
Mhm.
if it's something that's happening every year, have an awareness to the fact that come spring, it goes away. Okay.
Yeah.
So even knowing that, having that awareness of, oh, this happens to me, it's probably because my melatonin's off, our circadian rhythm gets messed up. So once
Yes.
again, there are physiological things that are happening to us,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean that we cannot do things to circumvent some of those situations.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you start shifting the thought process from, "Oh my god, winter's here, I'm gonna go dormant," to, "Winter's here, oh my god, it's my time of creativity. It's my time where I can learn more about myself. It's my time where I can really look at if it's a business you're doing, where do I wanna take my business? Do I wanna shift careers? Do what are those things that
Mhm.
I can really sink my teeth into because I'm not going we tend to socialize less in the, winter months because, once again, people don't wanna get out in the cold or things like that, unless you're those people who like skiing and snowboarding and being wet and cold, then yeah.
I think that the end of the year time, it's a great time to do sort of an internal inventory of things and maybe set some goals for next year and be precise about it. I think that, if you make a list and in fact, I'm reading a book right now and I will have to get back to what the title and author is on that, but it is talking about that, doing sort of a year in inventory, personal reflection. What did I set out to do at the beginning of the year? Maybe I wasn't able to accomplish that, but okay, let's formulate a plan for next year. And so it really is an opportunity to look at some of that stuff too and get some stuff in order. And that doing that organization in your mind, I think really does help you through those periods like that.
And I think some people sit here and say, "Well, I do New Year's resolutions." Forget the New Year's resolutions. The one thing we know about you New Year's resolutions is a majority of people do not complete a New Year's resolution
Mhm.
because it's some fabricated thing by somebody else. It has nothing real, "Oh, well, you have to make that New Year's resolution." Okay. And then people and how many people go out, buy their exercise equipment, and then pretty soon it's used to hold their clothes and
Yeah.
the laundry basket's on it. I don't even know where it's at. I lost it somewhere in the house kind of thing. And my clients will talk about that. And
Mhm.
they're like, I always tell them, stop buying stop. Let's just start internally, get you into a place of exercise before you go spend money, because then it becomes the place you hang your coats.
Yeah.
It does a beautiful job, but the coats look great. But that's the whole thing that we're talking about is it's not a New Year's resolution.
Right.
This is really about goal setting. This is about you and doing that inventory.
Yes.
What is it that I really wanted to accomplish this year? Oh my God, I accomplished that. I didn't even know this secondary thing. Now this is accomplished, and how is that going to build on to the next thing? If we don't do those inventories, if we don't make those, if we're not writing those goals down and seeing where we're at with them,
Mhm.
it makes it difficult for us to know even what we have accomplished. So oftentimes people don't even know everything that they've done in a positive way in their life because they're so busy just from the next to the next to the next to the next.
Mhm.
And then of course winter comes and then they go into this seasonal funk. And when they get in that seasonal funk, it's like they forget everything they've accomplished. It almost becomes a self-defeating dialogue instead.
Yeah. And I think when you do that self inventory, you can see it is beneficial in that it can help you to see some of the accomplishments that maybe you didn't remember, or
Mhm.
those kinds of things and how you're leading up to your goals. And I think another great thing to look at is your why. Why do you have some of the goals that you do? it's really good to sit down and make a list and identify that why so that you know what your purpose is.
And I agree, and if you look back, your why may change.
Mhm.
And just like and we've been doing this, and we wanted to do this podcast, and one of the things is that we're evolving within the podcast. We're moving it around, and we're really trying to narrow it down, being more concise on having that good mental mindset in in all of the things that we're doing.
Mhm.
And I think that's why it's really important to do those inventories, to go back and look and to say, Is what I started doing, is it still resonating with me? If it's not, then what happens is if it's not really resonating, then we get into these winter months. That also is impacting us because in essence, because it's not resonating, it's like that's our excuse for not doing. And if it is something that's not resonating, then take the time to figure out what's gonna drive that passion, what's gonna really help you to get to that next level.
Yeah, I think that you can shift how you frame the whole idea and concept of going into that kind of seasonal thing and saying, "Hey, I'm going to use this as my time for planning and goal setting and give yourself some grace because, you do need to look over the past year. What were those things that you did accomplish to get to even the point you are now?"
Absolutely, and, one of the things as a therapist, what I do is when I have those clients that I know have that seasonal depression, my thing is to start to be proactive before it's here,
Mhm.
at least if we can minimize it. Now, we may not always be able to take away the whole funk, okay? But if we can minimize it and make it a lot more bearable, then I feel that is something that is very positive, and it still keeps that person from, because to slip into that seasonal funk, it feels really hard to navigate out of it. It's a lot of energy, and you obviously don't have the energy. So understand seasonal depression, that seasonal funk is very, very, very real. And in no way do we want to minimize it. What we want to do is actually have people understand that if you know this is going to happen, what are some of those things you can put in place? What are some of those goals that you can set? Very specific things that you will get up and do every day. And it has to be something that's giving you something back.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's very personalized to everybody.
And it could be something as small as, okay, I'm going to set this a much amount of time aside for reading or learning something new, like we said, or playing an instrument you love. Maybe,
Coloring.
yes, maybe coloring. We say that because
No, seriously, we do. And one of the things is we joke and tease a lot about that, but we have many coloring books.
we do.
But our favorite ones are Grateful Beginnings coloring book collection by us.
Yeah.
But the reason coloring, once again, people, it's the same thing. What it does is it changes the way in which your brain waves are functioning.
Hmm.
And it's a creative thing. So even though there are illustrations there, when you put the color to it, it becomes personalized.
Hmm.
And it's something that you complete.
And when you become mindful and get focused on something like that, it's so relaxing, number one. But a lot of times because you're shifting out of that constant incessant thinking that we
That left
do.
brain area.
Yeah. I think it's really a beneficial thing because you take yourself out of that headspace and you're just focused on that. It becomes so calming and that can help you in the long run more than you even know.
Exactly. Listening to music.
Mhm.
They don't have to be big things, and this is the thing, I think that oftentimes, as humans, we tend to think if we gotta make a change, we gotta go. It's kinda like if I'm gonna run a 100-yard dash, I need to do the 100 yards, and I gotta have a 4 point whatever time, and I've never ran a 100-yard dash. That doesn't even make any
Yeah, you
sense,
gotta do a little
you
bit of
know?
training.
And that's the biggest thing, we have to train our brain.
Yes.
We always talk about that, it is practice, practice, practice.
But training your brain to think differently can be done. People just don't realize how much they stay reacting to things through that subconscious, just the way that we've always dealt with things.
It's always interesting to me when I have clients and we are doing stuff and I always give them assignments. I always tell them, it's your choice. You either do it or you don't. That's the reality of it.
Mhm.
And but the ones that do, and they start to see that change, and then they'll tell me, "I'm doing it, but I don't it's like I don't think about it anymore." It
Mhm.
becomes such a way of life for them.
And that's what you want it to become, is that's who you are. You embody that new way of thinking.
And you know what's really interesting to me too is when you are doing something, so we practice gratitude daily.
Mhm.
And if our day is getting all crazy, we usually do in the morning and at night, but and throughout the day. But if I'm at a place where I'm about to fall asleep, even and I realize I haven't done, it's like something internal to me says, you haven't done enough your gratitude, or you haven't done enough gratitude statements today. And then that I'll be there and I'll start doing gratitude statements because it's this thing that's already internal to me because we've been doing it now for over 10 years.
Mhm.
But when we first started out, it was a little bit of it's like, okay, it's almost seems more difficult than it is. But then, as you do it, it becomes so second nature to you
Yes.
because it's second nature to you. And even I do this. If I am in a place where my mood has dipped even a little bit, I will go right to a place of gratitude. And I mean, within minutes, it's a whole shift.
Mhm. And sometimes you're presented with something that you feel like this is a real shit show and you don't know how to get out of that. I think that a lot of times if you can just pause long enough to think about, for me, it may be something like my dog. If I pause and shift my focus to her for a few minutes and how much I love her, it really shifts the mood. It starts to make it to where that you can start to say some of those gratitude statements to yourself and that. But you have to get into that feeling place. And I think that's a really great way to do it when you can shift to something that you love and that brings you joy. That's a great way.
And I agree, and I think that when we sit and we really evaluate ourselves internally and have that introspection, and we realize that we have put out a lot of energy to where I'm stuck at now. If I even put a tenth of that energy to shifting, whether it's through gratitude, music, coloring books, exercise, relationship, whatever it is,
Mhm.
even a tenth, then that means I'm a tenth of the way there.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean, "Oh my god, I've got 90% more to go." No, 10%'s down, I got it really is the way in which we shift that thinking.
Right.
Do I sit there and say I'm closer to the finish line or, "Oh my god, there's so far to go to the finish line." The finish line is still the same distance, but it becomes the perception that I have.
Mhm.
It is my perception. And that's what the thing does. We get stuck in our way. We continue to have the same thought pattern. And then we will wonder, why am I stuck? I really want this really, 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 really bad, but I can't get there. And we'll look and we'll say, oh, well, the computer didn't work. Honey, what's not working is this, your brain. The thought process is in your brain
Mhm.
because we start to create excuses for not acting.
Mhm.
And even though they're valid, we make them more valid to justify why we're not moving forward.
Well, yeah, it gives you permission to stay stuck, I feel like,
Yes,
because your brain is in that mode. You don't see any way out. The thing is
100%.
that we don't have to see the whole staircase. We don't have to know how the whole entire plan is going to come to fruition. We just do what we can do in this moment that is forward motion for what we want.
And I think the other thing that we run into, and particularly when this seasonal funk, is that we'll have an idea and we'll think, okay, this idea, this is what's going to get me out of this funk. And I'll become so focused on that idea, not realizing that idea is not getting me out of the funk. In fact, it's keeping me in the funk. But what it is also doing is preventing me from seeing other options.
Exactly.
And when I'm dealing with people with seasonal depression,
Mhm.
and I'm only talking about the ones I deal with, not everybody's the same. I'm only coming from that. And they will even say that when they come out of the funk, "Why do I dig my heels in? What is it about that?" Because, the funk is gonna lift. The sun comes up and the funk is gone. We have more sunshine. It's like, "Oh, wow, this is like a whole new world."
Well, I don't think that people even realize that biologically there's stuff going on with the brain. It's the chemicals and that are being released in the brain when you're doing that, and it becomes addictive, really. When we're not aware of that, that keeps us there.
And you're talking about the cortisol, the beta and the cortisol, that those dumps are feeding something,
Yeah,
you
it
know?
feels like the dumps.
Boy, doesn't it? I don't know if I think there's a lot more people who have the seasonal funks that they just don't realize it because it doesn't dip down as low as it can go.
Mhm.
But they'll notice, here's where I usually am, and now here's where I am. And maybe it's not the same energy level, or it's maybe, I don't know, but I think it's there.
Yeah, and I mean, there can be very many contributing factors. Things can happen, your family dynamics change and things like that, and holidays are coming and it feels different. This will be the first Christmas without my mom.
Mhm.
And so I get it that things like that have an impact on us. And one of the things that I think that has really become more popular is doing Friendsgiving. I've heard of that a lot. And I think it's really cool when people can formulate new ways of celebrating and just being together and enjoying. And sometimes you have to kind of shift your focus to what else can you create? And I know that's hard sometimes when you're faced with something like that.
Mhm. It's an interesting you brought that up because I work a lot with military and veterans and the military and families. And one of the things that I think that is so cool about them is their thing of inviting like the single military members to their home and stuff. My sister in the Marine Corps, and I remember I'm there and I was over visiting her. She was in Camp Lejeune, and oh, we're gonna make some food for some people. I'm thinking, okay. Oh my God. Her house was not big enough to house all of these people, but she knew that they were alone.
Oh,
She knew that this was one way of bringing people together and having conversation and laughter and creating memories and a lot of cleanup. No, but that was the first time I witnessed that in person. Then, as I've worked with the military more, I just asked another one, "What are your plans?" She says, "Well," she says, "we don't really have a whole lot of people coming in, so I'll probably go see if there's any single soldiers or anybody like that who needs a place to come and hang out and stuff." So those are really cool things, but oftentimes they just do not do it at that time.
Mm.
They oftentimes will do that, and once again, my sister Sarah, "Sis, we're gonna make a little bit of food." As soon as she said that, I knew what this meant.
Yeah.
We're gonna have 19 Marines in here. It's that thing of helping other people out. And sometimes if you happen to see somebody and you kind of notice their mood dropping as into this seasonal funk,
Mm.
sometimes be that beacon of hope for them. And that's another thing you can do is invite them over, talk to them, text a good morning, be present.
Yeah.
There are things that we can do too in when we start to identify that
Yeah.
with somebody. And also, if you feel it happening and other people aren't aware of it, because sometimes people will pretend, don't pretend. Just go let people know. As soon as winter comes, my energy goes down, my mood goes down. Then they're aware of what's going on. And then maybe they can do something too. Because the thing is if you're in relationships or you have a family system, when you go into that seasonal funk, everybody feels the funk.
Yeah.
And not because you're sitting there trying to make them feel it or there's nothing negative about it. It's just the energy has shifted.
Mhm.
And because of that, and if that's the case, identify it, talk about it. Don't make it be this secret. that everybody knows, but nobody's talking about.
Yeah, because people can pick up on that, and for sure, sometimes then they take it personally and think that it's something that they're doing or that, and so, I mean, we talk about that a lot too, just having that communication is
Yes.
huge.
And I think sometimes people don't wanna communicate about those things because they view it as a weakness or, "This is my role, and I'm not doing my role." And then once again, they get into this headspace, which then keeps them from the communication piece. Instead, you have to get out of your own way.
Well, and I think learning to identify when it's happening, because I think a lot of times people don't, they're kind of oblivious and they're slipping into that funk. And so they probably don't have the conversation because they don't really understand what's happening to them.
And I think that's what as, family members, you help them identify it.
Yeah.
"I noticed that your energy is lower. I noticed that your mood is different."
Hmm.
And then if that person doesn't know, then that can now bring that into their awareness. "Oh my god, it is what," and then it's like, "Okay, what can I do?" Or, "That person, how can I help with this?"
Right.
What is make it a partnership. And that's the other thing. Winter's a great time to work on relationships, to work, it can be that this is what's really interesting. Trees don't go dormant. Nothing in nature goes dormant like that. It's not like they're ceasing to do anything. They're actually getting ready,
Hmm.
okay?
Yeah,
They're getting themselves ready for that next spring to bloom even bigger and better and more beautiful.
exactly.
They're not just sitting there. There's growth that's happening.
Hmm.
It's kinda like when you go out and you have your perennials and they're 6 inches tall the first year, and they're like, "This ain't gonna ever," and then the next year, you go out and they're 9 inches tall, and you're like, "Oh my god, I didn't even do anything different." No, they're doing it. They're taking care of themselves. They're nurturing themselves so that they come out bigger and better the next spring.
Exactly. And we are capable of that too.
And so if we wanna be like the tree and we wanna be like those out there, remember, they're nurturing themselves. They're working on themselves. And they're having growth. And those are the things that I think we have to remember. But oftentimes when we look outside, it's like, oh my God, everything's dead. No, it's not dead.
Right.
It's rebuilding,
Yeah.
it's getting ready. And that's what this time can be for us to sit back and think, no, I'm rebuilding. I'm coming. When I come out in the spring, y'all better watch out.
Exactly.
So those are things to realize. But a lot of times people will look out and they'll say, "There's no green, nothing's happening." Oh, but there's so much happening.
Hmm.
And I think realizing that in this time of year, there can be so much happening with us
Hmm.
getting us ready.
Yeah, exactly. Use it as that time to restore and rejuvenate and plan.
Get up, move. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
It the biggest thing I really do think is to sit back and say, "What did I accomplish this year?" Not what did I none of that negative crap. What did I accomplish this year? What is it I wanna accomplish next year? And not even next year, what do I wanna accomplish in the next hour?
Hmm.
Because sometimes when we put those goals out a year, then we think, oh, yeah, I don't have to be in my little bikini until the okay, I just won't work out until okay, let me calculate this." We do this crap all the time in our head.
Yeah. Little procrastinator comes out.
It's not it is procrastination, but it also, I think, is that brain saying, "Oh, well, you can really do it in this time." And how many kids will put off and put off and put off and say, "Oh, I'll just do it in the last minute." And then they're all panicked because they're getting done as they're walking into class, writing their last sentence, putting the last period and turning in their favor. Saw that a lot.
Yeah.
But the thing is, and when I work with them, I tell 'em, what happens if you hurry up and get that done, and then you have this other time to do the things that really resonate with you, that really make you happy in that. So a lot of the kids will get their homework done, and then they're like, "Yeah, Miss Sharon, guess what? I got to play with Legos and I got to build all these things." And they're telling me all the stuff that they got to do because, but we're just like little kids. We'll fight it and fight it and fight it and fight it. And guess what? We still have to do it,
Mhm.
but it's that time management too. It's just making time for you, making time for you that mental mindset that's gonna help you to be the best version of who you are.
Exactly. And it's all a part of the process.
And also identifying, yes, there are some physiological things going on,
Yeah.
in that has precedence. Absolutely. But it only has so much because we still have the ability, because we all of us experience the same thing. Our melatonin changes, our circadian rhythm throws off, can create some hormonal stuff.
Mhm.
But yet people will sit there and say, "Ooh, that doesn't feel good. I better do something else."
But just identifying it and bringing it into your awareness, you can give it more power or less. You can put your energy somewhere else.
Exactly. So I guess that's the big thing for today. Know that the seasonal funk may be there. Have an awareness to it, and then make the decision to use this time to rejuvenate, to build, to get stronger, to
Mhm.
to have those goals, to make this your creative time,
Yeah.
to do all of those things that are going to help you come spring to blossom bigger, brighter, all of those things that are really important to us.
Mhm.
We got to do like the trees do. We love trees, y'all.
We
We
do.
love, love, love trees. And I'm going to tell you something. We have one of our coloring books is grateful for our homes. And so in this, it has different style of homes. My most favorite ones are the tree houses.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen it, I say go check them out.
Go check them out. Yeah,
The holidays are coming. They are a great gift idea. Oh my
Mhm.
God, aren't we shameless? No.
Yeah. But they're so neat. I
They
love that one, the that you're talking about, Grateful for My Homes, because it has the log cabins and the castles and tree houses and,
boat houses and
igloos, just all different kinds, and the ways to travel, the airplanes and
planes,
automobiles,
trains, automobiles, balloons.
yeah. And
Oh,
then we have imagination where it's, unicorns and dragons and
gnomes.
yeah, so there's lots of different ones there. You should check them out. There is space exploration and things
Yeah.
like that. So,
Because you know what? There's so much to be grateful for. And,
yeah.
even when we were doing these, it was like, we only wanted a collection of 10. We could have had a collection of 10,000.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Because there's so much to have gratitude about.
yeah.
But we stopped at 10. So it is only a 10.
Yes, it's a 10 book collection. The entire series is up on Amazon. And in order to find it, you just need to type in our names, Sharon Abeta, Abeyta, and Christy Banta, Banta. And you can find them all on there. And hopefully you will find something that resonates with you.
Our final one really was an important one to us. It is grateful for our military. We have immense gratitude for our military. Not only did we have your dad was Marines, my
Yes.
dad was Army,
My brother's army.
and I have my sister and two brothers, Marines, nieces, Air Force. So a lot of military in our families and stuff, but
Hmm.
it is such an honor and a privilege for me to work with our military and to put out a coloring book that says we are grateful for our military. The service that they do and stuff is just really, really important. And it kind of is really something that I hold dear to my heart and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, you work with a lot of military and veterans, and we just had Veterans Day. Might be a great idea for somebody if you know somebody that likes to color. They don't have to be 3. It could be 3 and, beyond.
I'm 30.
So,
And seriously, it's so funny because a lot of my adults love to color.
mhm.
It's very relaxing for them. Anyway, and also you can find us on
twogirlsinapod.com. If you go on there and subscribe, you will receive an email whenever we upload a new episode of Two Girls in a Pod Life's Journey. We also are on YouTube, Adventures of Two Girls in a Pod Life's Journey. There are a few extras on there. You can see the coloring books, and Sharon has a few mixology videos on there you could check
I'm gonna
out.
get back to it. I've been a little lax on my mixology.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's true. And then also, you can listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts on the internet. We are also on,
Facebook and Instagram.
yes. So, Two
Can
Girls in a Pod Life's Journey on there.
You can
Please.
follow us and love
Subscribe.
it. We always ask for people to have interaction with us because that interaction really helps that algorithm that I know nothing about. I'm just telling you, it's my nemesis. No,
Mm.
but as always, we appreciate it. And if you are feeling that seasonal funk, be aware of it, talk about it, know that there are certain things you can do to kind of help you navigate it a little bit more effectively.
Yes, help prevent it from
Spiraling.
totally,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
consuming you.
Really. So anyway, as always, thank you for listening, and we will be back next week. And also, if you have any ideas that you would like us to cover around any of these issues and stuff, and if it's in our wheelhouse, by all means, send us a message and we will definitely do that. So anyway, thank you all and have a really great week.
Yep, thank you.
Bye.